This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about BlackRock taking over Bitcoin. This is a question I've received from many viewers. Matt, I'm concerned about BlackRock's actions. I saw another video from a Bitcoin channel that made me aware of this. So BlackRock is aggressively taking over the mining industry and is actively rallying up all the Bitcoin core dev people. Apparently Saylor is in this as well. I think it's fair to say that for BlackRock, this is a take-all game. This means they have, or at least want to control the rules. I'm seriously worried that in a few years, Bitcoin will be rigged and used as another government tool to control the economy, just like fiat. In the mentioned video, they cite BlackRock, which states in their communications that the 21 million cap of Bitcoin cannot be guaranteed. I think that's not a warning, but a promise. Very interested in your thoughts on this. So is it true that BlackRock has taken large positions in most of the large publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies in the US? Yes, this is indeed true. Vanguard has done this as well. If we take a look at Mara Holdings, which used to be called Marathon, and we look at the insider or the top institutional holders, we can see BlackRock is at the top, owning 14% of the shares. Vanguard owns 11% of the shares. It's also true for the Bitcoin mining company Core Scientific, BlackRock owning about a little more than 5%, and Vanguard owning 4.5%. The same is true for Riot Platforms, where Vanguard owns almost 10% of the shares outstanding and BlackRock owns almost 7%. So the question remains, does BlackRock have a nefarious plan to use these stock positions to control Bitcoin? I think it may actually be much worse than that. In fact, BlackRock may have its dirty little fingerprints all over your brand new white tennis shoes as well. So before we talk about Bitcoin mining, it's important to pay attention to BlackRock's nefarious plan to control footwear and apparel all over the world. If we take a look at how many shares of Nike they hold, they and Vanguard are the two top shareholders at 9 and 7%. And BlackRock's nefarious plan to take over and control canned soup. They're also very large shareholders in the Campbell Soup Company, BlackRock owning 6% of the shares. And then there's BlackRock's nefarious plan to control diapers. This may be the most nefarious of them all, owning a lot of shares of Procter & Gamble, Vanguard, and BlackRock, both the largest shareholders here. So what's the real reason that BlackRock and Vanguard have large positions in almost every large U.S. publicly traded company? We could do this with any company, and people often cherry pick companies just to make some sort of didactic point. What's the real reason? It's because both of these companies, BlackRock and Vanguard, offer financial products that package up stocks into ETFs, mutual funds, index funds of various forms, whether they're ETFs or mutual funds. That's it. There's really no big conspiracy here. If you're finding this video helpful so far, I just ask you to help to support this channel's mission. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, comment, question, suggestion for a future video. Share this video with a friend or family member. So as we said, BlackRock and Vanguard buy shares of stock in these companies and hold them for people who buy these investment products, these mutual funds and ETFs. Bitcoin miners like Core Scientific, Mara, and Riot are already in the Russell 3000 index, which is just another stock index, which is a basket of stocks. And BlackRock itself, of course, offers an ETF for this because they offer ETFs for almost everything. We have the iShares, which is a BlackRock brand, and we have the Russell 3000, which is the largest 3,000 publicly traded companies in the US, or the most important. There are various other ways of screening this, but we can look up all the Bitcoin miners. They're all in here: Marathon, Mara Holdings, Riot, Cores, etc. So I'll put a link to this. You can go through and take a look at this. This is just a passive index following product. There's nothing very sinister about this, but this is one reason that BlackRock owns a lot of these various Bitcoin mining companies. They own it for this iShares product, and they own it for other mutual funds. They own it for other iShares products, etc. So on to the next scary fact that was in some of these videos that people have been sending me. BlackRock has been buying up all the Bitcoin. Is this true? This is something we've talked a lot about on this channel, but if you're new to Bitcoin, new to this channel, you know that BlackRock issues IBIT, which is the spot Bitcoin ETF, the most popular one, and second only to or actually it's number one, and then the next one down, Grayscale, is almost not even half its size. So BlackRock through IBIT currently owns 521,164 Bitcoin, which is quite a bit, but BlackRock has been buying Bitcoin to back their spot Bitcoin ETF, to back this IBIT, because when new money enters the ETF, BlackRock or its authorized participants like Goldman Sachs, They buy Bitcoin and they issue new shares of IBIT. This is how ETFs work. And that BTC, that Bitcoin, is being held for customers of IBIT. BlackRock is not even holding it themselves. So it's very misleading to say that BlackRock owns this much Bitcoin, because they own it for customers of the ETF. It's not even sitting at BlackRock, it's sitting over at Coinbase custody. So there are multiple layers of counterparty risk here, not meaning to minimize that at all. But the idea that BlackRock is secretly buying this up for some private fund is simply not true. They may be buying it for private clients as well, etc. They may even be holding it in their own custody for their high net worth or institutional clients. But for the Bitcoin spot ETF, it's sitting over at Coinbase custody. Now, of course, that's another separate question, a separate problem. That's a giant honeypot. But I think that even if it were to be stolen or hacked and lost by Coinbase, nothing would change with Bitcoin. You'd have a price crash for a couple weeks or a couple months, but nothing would fundamentally change for Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin the network, and Bitcoin the asset, although it would be really bad news for those who hold stocks like MicroStrategy and IBIT, presumably whose Bitcoin is sitting at Coinbase. And again, that's not intended as FUD or a dig against MicroStrategy or IBIT, just one of the trade-offs of owning them. So yeah, BlackRock has been buying a lot of Bitcoin, but it's just for their ETF customers. Next question, does owning more Bitcoin give BlackRock more control over Bitcoin? No, it does not, fortunately, because Bitcoin is proof of work. And if Bitcoin's consensus mechanism were proof of stake like Ethereum's is, Ethereum moved to proof of stake in late 2022. If Bitcoin's consensus mechanism were proof of stake like Ethereum, then it would indeed be a complete disaster, since the more coins you own under proof of stake, the more often you'll get chosen to issue a new block of transactions, and thus the more control you have over which transactions go into that block and which do not, which gives you censorship power. A large Ethereum ETF would give BlackRock lots of control over Ethereum block production. Yet another reason to dump your ETH for BTC. Under proof of stake, the more coins you have, the more control you have over the protocol. Basically recreates the fiat financial system, which is ruled by the rich. So if you're in favor of proof of stake coins like Solana or Ethereum, you're really trying to bring back rule by the rich. Fortunately, Bitcoin is proof of work, where having more coins does not give you more control over the protocol. So thank you, Satoshi, for having a brain and putting proof of work at the heart of Bitcoin. Very sorry for you, though, if you hold Ethereum and if Vitalik Buterin is your brave leader. But doesn't owning all those Bitcoin mining companies still give BlackRock control over Bitcoin mining, since BlackRock usually gets to vote on behalf of investors for its shareholder proposals in these ETFs and mutual funds? Yes, this is true, though increasingly some pensions and endowments are pushing back and saying they want to have control, of voter control over the shares that BlackRock's holding for them. But usually these large institutional investors get to vote these shares on behalf of the investors that they're holding the shares for. Here, in this case, what could BlackRock do with their votes in these Bitcoin mining companies? Could they tell U.S. Bitcoin miners to stop mining Bitcoin? Yeah, they could do that. They could try to do that. I don't think that's exactly legal in the U.S., having one company tell another company what they can or cannot do. But even if they could do this, it would just make it easier for everyone else outside of the U.S. to mine Bitcoin. Since the global hash rate would fall, there'd be a little less competition and nothing would stop. Bitcoin would still be mined every 10 minutes, so it wouldn't hurt Bitcoin at all. What else could BlackRock do with their controlling shares or with their large stakes in these Bitcoin mining companies? Could they tell the miners to stick a few extra Bitcoin in each block as a reward for themselves? If they did this, though, the problem is those blocks would be rejected by Bitcoin nodes all over the world as violating Bitcoin's consensus rules. My Bitcoin node that I run would reject these bad blocks as well. And as such, these bad blocks that violated the consensus rules would not be included in the blockchain that each node builds for itself. This is how Bitcoin works. Each Bitcoin node independently verifies and builds its own version of the blockchain. And to the extent that people follow the consensus rules, you have a convergence towards one common history and one common blockchain in a very decentralized, very cool manner. This is something that's very important to remember, that Bitcoin nodes, not the Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin nodes enforce the consensus rules. Finally, what about BlackRock being able to change Bitcoin's maximum supply of 21 million coins? There's been a lot of talk about this on X and on YouTube, and people are always citing this report from BlackRock this white paper that's called Bitcoin, a unique diversifier. What makes Bitcoin relevant, what made Bitcoin possible, talks about the fixed maximum supply of 21 million units with supply growth declining every 4 years. And then there's this little footnote, which for some reason people keep pulling out and using it. And if you look at the footnote, it says for illustrative purposes only, quoting the Bitcoin white paper. And then there's this legal boilerplate. Forward-looking estimates may not come to pass. There is no guarantee that the current 21 million supply cap for outstanding Bitcoin, which is estimated to be reached by approximately the year 2140, will never be changed. There's no guarantee that this supply cap will never be changed. So what's going on here? That's just legal boilerplate. BlackRock has no power, and as far as I can tell at this point has no intention, but the important point is they have no power to change Bitcoin's maximum supply of 21 million coins. That power is reserved for the nodes, the Bitcoin nodes who enforce the Bitcoin consensus rules by running Bitcoin software. And no node operator who owns Bitcoin, and why would you run a node if you don't own Bitcoin? No node operator will agree to run a version of Bitcoin software that increases the maximum supply of coins, because by doing so, that node operator would be diluting his own holdings of Bitcoin. Here's the thing, and it's important to remember, anyone can fork Bitcoin. You can fork Bitcoin, I can fork Bitcoin. It's not just up to powerful actors like BlackRock. Anyone can fork Bitcoin, which means anyone can copy the code, make a few changes, and then run the new code, maybe running it with a new maximum supply of 22 million coins instead of 21 million coins. But then the tricky part is getting other people to run that new code too, because you cannot have a network unless you have a lot of nodes running the same software. And if you do something like this, where you increase the maximum supply, you're not going to get any existing Bitcoiners to join you. And so it's unlikely that something like this could take off. There have been hard forks of Bitcoin like Bitcoin Cash and BSV, which is a hard fork of Bcash, and these have all been complete failures. So there is some history as well to Bitcoin forks. So if you fork Bitcoin, if you change the code, don't expect me, don't expect other serious Bitcoiners to run your code, especially if it dilutes our holdings of Bitcoin. And this is what guarantees the 21 million cap, and there's nothing that BlackRock or powerful actors can do about it. Next question, has BlackRock infiltrated the Bitcoin core devs with plans to get them to change Bitcoin's core, to change Bitcoin's code? I don't think that they have. I haven't heard this, but it wouldn't matter if they did, since Bitcoiners are under no obligation to run the code that's put out by Bitcoin core devs. The process is more the opposite, where Bitcoin core devs generally work on things that the wider Bitcoin community wants them to be working on, and where there is general consensus that they should be working on it. Mostly maintenance. These days, it's mostly maintenance and keeping the software compatible with new updates of Windows, Mac OS, Linux, etc. And so Bitcoin devs are more followers than leaders when it comes to this, because if they work on code or create code that no one wants, no one's going to run it. The Bitcoin nodes are not going to run it. So in conclusion here, the entrance of MicroStrategy and BlackRock and other large companies into the Bitcoin scene is an expected stage on the road to hyper-Bitcoinization. Global Bitcoin adoption means that lots of people own some Bitcoin directly or through investment vehicles. Global Bitcoin adoption means that there'll be lots of publicly traded Bitcoin companies in various areas. And there are lots of areas that Bitcoin touches, areas of mining, hardware wallets, custody, Bitcoin and Lightning infrastructure, adjacent software for the ecosystem, Bitcoin exchanges, Bitcoin banks, etc. So it's fine if you want Bitcoin to remain a niche project only used by cypherpunks and libertarians, but unfortunately that's not how you separate money from state, which is at least my goal. That's not how you give 8 billion people a new form of neutral, fair, ethical money. If this is going to happen, if we're going to have global adoption, you're going to see Bitcoin finding its way into every nook and cranny of the existing financial system, and that includes actors like BlackRock, whether you like them or not. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.